Honeybees are the unsung heroes of the food chain, crucial to the production of 1/3 of all the foods we eat. So when billions of bees began to mysteriously disappear last year, there was plenty of concern and no shortage of theories blaming everything from cell phones to divine rapture. None of the usual explanations seem to fit. Some of the nation's top scientists are trying to understand the phenomenon. But no one is more immersed in the mystery than the man who is widely credited with discovering it. Welcome to Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. Population 6,000 people and 88 million bees, enough to sting every resident of New York, California, and Texas combined. The bees belong to David Hackenberg and his family, who have been keeping them for almost a half a century.
It's the most unique thing in nature there is. I mean, you stick your head inside that beehive, you know, it's something about bees that it just makes the rest of the world just seem to go away.
You get along with them?
Get along fine with them.
The bees make plenty of honey, but most of the money comes from loading 2,200 hives onto flatbed trucks and renting them to farmers all over the country. On this particular day, their services were desperately needed in Maine, where mile upon mile of wild blueberries were in bloom, just waiting to be pollinated. 30 years ago, a good-sized blueberry farm was 500 acres. Today, a large commercial operation can run to 10,000 acres, and there are simply not enough honeybees in Maine to do the work. On average, Hackenberg and his bees log 60,000 miles a year on the road, wintering in Florida to work citrus and cantaloupe, then back north in the spring for apples and cherries, maybe even to California for the almond crop. He's just a small part of an industry that pollinates 90 different crops worth an estimated $15 billion, and most people don't even know it exists.
What happens when you pull into a gas station with like a big flatbed of bees? Are people nervous? People get scared?
Oh yeah, I mean, you get all them things. I mean, you know, there's bees on that truck, you know. Most of the people in this country have no idea what it takes to put the food on their table.
You think bees are underappreciated? Taken for granted?
Yeah, bees are underappreciated. Sometimes I think beekeepers are underappreciated. Come on, you!
The hours are long and the work strenuous.
There we go.
After a 10-hour drive to Maine, Hackenberg and his crew still had to unload the hives and position them in the fields. Even when he grabbed a few hours' sleep in the cab of his truck, he wasn't alone. Most people would have trouble getting to sleep with a couple of dozen bees buzzing around, but Hackenberg never worries about getting stung.
That's just part of the business, you know. It's like stopping for traffic lights in New York.
How many times you been stung?
Oh, you know, probably in the thousands and thousands and thousands of times. I've had days when I might have had 100, 120 bee stings in one day.
You?
I mean, myself. Your body builds up an immunity to it.
If I were to get stung 125 times, I'd be sick.
You'd probably be in the hospital.
In a good year, he can make $100,000 profit, but this past year has been a financial disaster, and it all began one afternoon last November when he checked on some of his hives in Florida.
When I pulled into a bee yard in Florida, there was 400 hives of bees that 3 weeks before that looked great. And all of a sudden, here we got roughly 400 beehives that are totally empty.
The bees were all gone?
They're gone.
I mean, where'd they go?
Don't know. I mean, I literally got down and crawled around. I mean, seriously, I got down on my hands and knees and crawled around, and then there's no dead bees. There are no dead bees anywhere. I mean, you can't find any bees. They flew off someplace.
And never came back?
Never came home.
Had you ever seen that before?
No.
Under normal circumstances, bees don't get lost. They have a sophisticated navigation system that uses the sun and landmarks as points of reference. As this European documentary shows, they can travel up to 2 miles in search of food, then find their way back home by following the unique smell of their hive. And once there, they're able to direct other bees to their food source by doing what entomologists call the dance, one of the most intricate languages in nature.
Gabe, I've done a lot of things. I've never done this.
Yeah, there's worse things, I think.
Within a few months, Hackenberg had lost 2/3 of his bees. He and his son Davy began calling the Department of Agriculture and beekeepers around the country to see if they were having similar problems. And within a matter of weeks, he discovered that many of them were. First, Hackenberg showed us what a normal hive looks like.
Yeah, how many bees live in this hive?
This hive here, just looking at it, probably got close to 35,000, 40,000 bees in it.
Then he showed us a hive that's suffering from what scientists are now calling colony collapse disorder, or CCD.
I mean, there's no reason this time of year a hive of bees should look like this.
Not only were there no bees, the hive was filled with eggs and larvae. Bees almost never leave their young. The hive was also filled with honey that not even scavengers seemed to want.
Under normal circumstances in a dead beehive, other bees would have been coming in robbing honey out. And the honey wasn't even, there was no bees even bothering. I mean, just, it was like a ghost town.
Like something had happened to the hive and the other bees knew it.
That's right.
They didn't want to go back in.
Nobody wanted to touch it.
Since Hackenberg made his discovery, a third of the honeybees in the country have either died off or disappeared. Some beekeepers have lost up to 90% of their hives. The Department of Agriculture has set up a working group of scientists from 6 universities, the Department of Defense, and the Environmental Protection Agency to try and isolate the cause. Jeff Pettis of the Agriculture Department is leading the effort.
What do you think the problem is?
I think the problem is complicated. I don't think it's going to come down to a single factor, that we're not going to be able to pin all of these losses on either one factor or even maybe one combination of factors.
Autopsies of bees remaining in the collapsed hives have confirmed what scientists have long suspected, that honeybees in general are not in good health and are afflicted with all sorts of ailments.